Today's video is Return of the King from 2003. The film is about Gandalf and Aragorn lead the world of men against Sauron's army to draw his gaze from Frodo and Sam as they approach Mount Doom with the One Ring. This movie did not need to be 4 hours and 26 minutes, although for a 3-hour movie, the theatrical version feels surprisingly rushed. The Lord of the Rings trilogy became the most nominated film franchise in Academy Award history, with 30 nominations, surpassing the Godfather trilogy with 29 and the Star Wars film franchise with 21. So here are some spoilers. I would have liked to have seen more of the relationship between Merry, Theoden, and Éomer. I would prefer to see Theoden's reaction to the hobbits because we know that the Fellowship will be happy to see them alive at Isengard. And we still could have had Gimli berating them, but instead of seeing Aragorn and Gandalf's reactions, we see Rohan's. Maybe it's just me, but Peter Jackson doesn't seem to understand how to do tension or suspense, because I never trusted Denethor in the book. I guess because he was Boromir's dad. But again, just like with Faramir, there was more ambiguity on whether or not he was trustworthy. And it also felt like in the book that Denethor was just using Pippin to get information, and because he was one of the last people to be with Boromir. And the relationship wasn't like Merry and Theoden's. And speaking of which, has Denethor heard of a napkin? It would have been interesting, since it is in the first book, if at some point the hobbits did sing Pippin's song, only a little more lively, and then he sings it again in the movie. King Theoden touching the spears of his soldiers before they charge into battle was Bernard Hill's idea. I'm not happy about Frodo telling Sam to go home. But, again, it's there for unnecessary tension when they're about to go through a spider's lair. But what really bugs me is that Sam actually goes back down the stairs and finds Limbus. We didn't need all that to happen. The last thing we could have seen was Sam crying, and then he saves Frodo from Shelob. We didn't need the extra bit of him going down the stairs and crumbling Limbus in anger. If the filmmakers wanted to separate them, all they could have done was had Frodo and Sam get separated in the lair, or have Gollum hit Sam again in the head. That poor boy's getting so many concussions in this movie. Here's something I didn't think about until I was watching the extended edition. How did Shelob sting Frodo if he was wearing the mithril shirt? I like the theatrical version of Pippin finding Merry immediately after the battle instead of waiting until nighttime to find him. And to me, it would have been better if somebody like Gimli or Legolas had gone with him to find Merry. And to me, the movie could have slowed down a little bit with the Houses of Healing scene. Because to me, that's a very important scene with the citizens of Gondor realizing who Aragorn is and him healing a bunch of people. Why doesn't anybody ever think of Sam whenever they talk about Frodo? And why don't they say for Frodo and Sam? Is it because the mouth of Sauron didn't present a frying pan with the mithril shirt? And right before Aragorn says for Frodo, Gandalf does some kind of weird hand gesture. I can't tell if it's Gandalf doing a spell or if it's just McKellen moving his hand, not realizing it would appear on screen. In the book, when Gollum ambushes them at Mount Doom, Sam urges Frodo to go on without him while he deals with Gollum. But in the movie, it just looks like Frodo gets this sudden burst of energy and abandons Sam. The problem with the multiple endings complaint is that you are made to think that it's ending so many times with these weird fade outs. Everything that happens towards the end of the movie happens in the book, like the eagles, the coronation, Frodo waking up. All that happens, but it's just so weird with the fade outs. Now, no offense to Peter Jackson, but as of filming these videos, these are the only movies I've seen made by him. But it feels like he doesn't know how to do made-up tension. Or like I said, suspense, like with Faramir. Basically keeping Frodo and Sam hostage in Two Towers, and Denethor telling Gandalf that he won't bow to Aragorn. Yes, that quote is in the movie. It's in the book. but it's like way later, and Gollum throwing the limbs away and blaming Sam. There's enough tension in the books. They don't need to add tension. He also doesn't seem to know how to do extreme happy moments. Like when Frodo first wakes up in Rivendell, he, Sam, and Gandalf have a quiet, happy moment together. But when they meet up with Merry and Pippin, they just start jumping up and down. And the same thing happens here. When Frodo wakes up, it's just a little weird with everybody just laughing and jumping up and down. And speaking of that, I don't think that Frodo didn't know Legolas's name. I think it's, like I said, just a weird scene, and they probably filmed it multiple times, and that's just the take that ended up in the movie. I'm not saying I hated the movies. I really enjoyed them more than I thought I would. There are just some things that probably shouldn't have happened. And I'm glad I read the books first because I purposely waited to see the movies until I read the books. So what are your thoughts on the trilogy? There's so much that happens in the books that it almost needs to be more than 3 movies. Or if Rings of Power didn't exist, I could see this being a multi-season show. So comment down below, like this video, share around, and subscribe, and Namari.